Dear students, welcome to the online lecture series of the Department of English, Payyanur College, Payyanur. Today we are going to read the poem Banaras by Kedarnath Singh, included in the Common Course textbook Demystifying Knowledge, Readings on Philosophy of Knowledge, prescribed for the fourth semester students of Kannur University. The poem is conceived as something that is able to produce a new knowledge regarding bhakti, or that bhakti tradition in India. We have a knowledge that Banaras, Varanasi or Kashi is the spiritual capital of India, of the Hindus in India. But the poem helps us understand the complex nature of reality, that so many traditions coexist in India, especially in this particular place of worship. The poet, though he has written the poem in Hindi, we come to understand that he never uses the official Hindi for writing the poem. He uses the local tradition, the local flavor is added to the type of Hindi that he uses in his poems. A minor tradition is imagined. The majoritarian tradition is, I think, a little bit undermined. The structure of the poem, the language of the poem, the syntax, the idiom, everything is against this kind of a totalitarian point of view that has been constructed by Hindus, especially those who are in power, and the powerless beings, the various existences that are there in the periphery. The perspective is a little bit changed. We are able to look at Varanasi or Kashi or Banaras from a different perspective. The lesson has two sections. First part is the poem proper, translated by Nidhi Singh from Hindi to English. The second part is a note on the poem Banaras by Dr. E.V. Ramakrishnan, who is a critic as well as a creative writer, a friend of Kedarnath Singh. And he says, there are multiple worlds beneath the surface reality that we experience, we see around us. The poem reads like this. Spring descends on the city suddenly, and when it does, a whirl of dust rises from Lahardara or Mandudiya and coats the tongue of this ancient place. No, Kashi, it has been called as Shiva Kashi. There is a temple of Lord Shiva. And the poet says, when spring comes to this particular city, all on a sudden, when the season comes, there arises life which has been there in a dormant state, in a sleeping state. When the spring comes, when the best season of the year comes, life enlivens all. Suddenly, there is a new life to this ancient city, which is popular for its slow time. Everything went on at a very slow pace. People were looking dull, and all on a sudden they become very much smart. When the festive seasons occur, when they come, we also become very much active. Just like that in Banaras as well, there is a new life seen in the eyes, in the whole appearance of people, not only living beings, even non-living beings, even animal life, the flora and the fauna, everything becomes very much active and live. That which exists cures with life, while that which doesn't sprouts and grows. There is a sudden rebirth to every earthly existence. And at Deshadwamedha, it's a Snanaghatta near the temple on the banks of the river Ganga. The last stone on the river bank softens even more. Even a stone will be very soft. And there is a reference to Lahartara or Mandudiya, just like our Tunjan Parambu. Tunjan Parambu in Tirur in Kerala is known for Eruthachan, his nativity. Just like that, Kabir Das is born in Lahartara. The poet Kedarnath Singh, when he speaks about the temple of Shiva of Banaras, he speaks about Kabir Das as well. He hints at the Bhakti tradition of India. There is a counter culture that existed in India, or still there are such counter cultures. But we never make all these things visible when we speak about Banaras. We focus upon the majoritarian discourse of Hindutva. And this particular poem is trying to destabilize that kind of a concept. There is a strange glow in the eyes of the monkeys crouching on the stairs, and a strange sheen fills the emptiness of the beggars' bowls. Even the beggars are given a space in the poem. The monkeys are located within the framework of a poem. There is a strange light of love and compassion, and see, that kind of a feel is created by the poet. Means life is there, a renewed life, a refreshed life could be seen in the eyes of the monkeys, and also the beggars' bowls are filled with compassion, love. People share whatever they have with the beggars as well. We always think about clean city. The beggars are driven off from the cities. The beggars are also part of a city existence. All types of life would coexist in a city. And we always give our importance to cleanliness by keeping some people as other, by constructing compound walls, not addressing the issues of the poor people and eradicating poverty and such things, but by raising a compound wall, we are separating some people from our vicinity. So the everyday life of the ordinary people is given due space, place in the poem. Have you ever seen spring descending on empty bowls? That is how the city opens, fills up, empties, and day after day, shoulders carry the weight of an eternal corpse through its dark and winding streets toward the shimmering Ganges. The shining Ganges, the whole glamour and glory of the river is there, the pious and holy river. At the same time, there is a presence of shoulders carrying the weight of eternal corpse. Every now and then the body of dead people are carried to the river, the sacred river. Death, rebirth, the physical existence, the spiritual aura given to it. Everything is there, given some kind of a importance. Dust kicks up slowly, so slowly, Bells ring slowly, so slowly. Dusk sets in, and people trudge the lanes of the city slowly, so slowly. Means people walk in a very tired way. They walk in a slow fashion. There is no speed of the metros imagined here. This is an ancient place. There is no change of these kinds of modernity happened in the city. Now, we have to have a kind of look at our own cities. But the tradition and modernity, they coexist. One cannot negate the presence of modernity. At the same time, even when we pass through our streets, we can see the coexistence of modern as well as traditional presence in the cities of India. This slowness, there is some amount of slowness in the city. The fast metro is not Banaras. Unlike in Calcutta or Delhi or Mumbai or Bangalore, we have great cities of India. But unlike that, this particular city of temples, this has got some amount of slowness. This slowness, this rhythm binds the city, and 400 of years, nothing falls off, nothing shakes, nothing moves. The Ganges remains, the boat stays tied to a spot, and for hundreds of years at the same place, the Sabbath of Tulsidas remains. The time never changes. Some 400 years ago, there was a poet, just like Kabir, there was Tulsidas. These people, poets of the Bhakti tradition, were living together. His footsteps, his own Methiyadi could be seen at the same place where it was placed years back. Ganges remains the same, as if they are portrayed in some kind of a painting. No change happens. If you look at the city from the river bank one evening by the light of the Aarti, it has a strange shape. It is submerged half in water, half in flowers, half in mantra. You can hear this voice of the people reciting mantras, or you can see the color of flowers. You can see the movement of water. Now, the five senses will be there, satisfied. The half submerged in the holy water, we can see the whole city is half sunk in water, as if the city is bathing in the river. Half in depth, half in sleep, half in conch shell. There is a sound produced by the quench from the temple, and half asleep and half dead, we can say. The temple is there having some kind of a slow and steady existence. If you look again, in half remains and half does not. Just like the dancing Shiva, the one leg will be in the air dancing, the other foot would be firmly posted on the pedestal. The dancing Nataraja, you must have seen the statue, idol of Nataraja. One leg or one foot will be firm, the other will be moving. Just like that, half of the whole city is fixed, the other part is moving. What remains stands on its own, and what does not stands on columns of ashes and light, columns of fire, of water, of smoke, of scent, of the raised arms of men. The whole city is now standing on the hands of the men, people shoulder on their back, we can say. Or there are columns of smoke, columns of water, columns of smell, everything is there. propelled by, supported by all these kinds of columns, we have a city there just before our eyes, portrayed by the poet. And for centuries now, from the 11th century BC, from that day onwards in India, there was these kinds of an existence of this city, as well as worship and everything there happening or going on in Banaras. For centuries now, praying to the unseen sun early morning before the sun rises. People will be going into the Snana Ghatta, and they will be carrying water in their palms, in their arms, and giving some kind of a prayer to the sun god. So the city has stood in the water for centuries on one leg, completely oblivious to the other. Means the one leg is submerged in water, the other leg is there, folded, as in prayer, like the sannyasis with folded arms standing before the sun, basking under the sun in the early morning, in prayers. You can see so many traditions, so many customs, so many conventions. They go into make a kind of plural culture that is there in India, democratic, diverse in its pattern. No, we need not make everything into a monolithic structure, is what Kedarnath Singh tries to communicate. No, actually, Banaras, when he speaks about Banaras, he speaks about Kabir and Tulsidas, not the recent type of Hindu concept of a single god or single culture, single food, single language. Instead of that, there should be diversity and multiplicity. We should look into that aspect of India. India is one at the same time, and also it has diverse kind of cultures which exist. See, so this is the focal point of the poem. Means we need imagination to capture this side of the city where the past merges with the present, and also the single merges with the many. It is through empathy we must be able to go into the hearts and minds of others. We should not have separatism in our mind. We should coexist, and we should have empathy and imagination that we enter the complex inner world of Banaras. From the outside, in our films and in our fiction, we have created a Banaras which is considered to be a pilgrim center for the Hindus alone. Kabir, he never wanted to die. The Hindus would like to die at this particular Snanaghatta of the Ganges, on the banks of the river. There is a crematorium, and one would think that one would get moksha if one dies in Kashi. People, when they become old, they go for a pilgrimage to Kashi. In the good old days, they never come back. And in Malayalam, we have films and fictions on this particular spiritual center, Banaras. And it's a route, it's on route to the Himalayan mountain ranges, to Kailas. People have a small stay at Banaras. You must have seen such films, and you must have come across such fictions as well. So here he says, E.V. Ramakrishnan also says that when you relate to this view of Banaras, you should understand how poetry can enhance the powers of seeing, making you see what is not obvious on the surface. Now, we never see, if we go to Banaras, the existence of Kabir or Tulsidas there, like Eruthachan a kind of local tradition, a counter tradition is constructed. From a history from below is being written through poems. These poems. Kabir, he never wanted to conform to any religion. He was looked after by a Muslim family, but he never wanted to be a Muslim or Hindu. So these points in the poem is an attempt to counter our narratives and constructions of new traditions which are monolithic in its nature. Thank you. Banaras, Kedarnath Singh, വിവർത്തനം TV മുരളീകൃഷ്ണൻ. ഈ നഗരത്തിൽ നനച്ചിരിക്കാതെ വന്നെത്തുന്നു വസന്തം. വരുമ്പോൾ ഞാൻ കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട് ലഹർ താര അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മടുവാടിയിൽ നിന്ന് ഉയരുന്നു പൊടിയുടെ ചുഴലിക്കാറ്റ്. ഈ മഹാനഗരത്തിൻ്റെ നാവ് കുരുകുരുക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഉള്ളവർ ഇളകി ഉലയുന്നു. ഇല്ലാതായവർ പോലും പുതുനാമ്പുകൾ നീട്ടിപ്പോകുന്നു. ആളുകൾ ദശാശ്വമേധത്തിലെത്തുന്നു. കടവിലെ അവസാനത്തെ പട സ്വല്പം കൂടി മിനുസപ്പെട്ടതായി കണ്ടെത്തുന്നു. പടവുകളിലിരിക്കുന്ന കുരങ്ങന്മാരുടെ മിഴികളിൽ വിചിത്രമായൊരു നനവ്, വിചിത്രമായ തിളക്കത്തിൽ നിറഞ്ഞു കവിയുന്നു ഭിക്ഷാടകരുടെ കിണ്ണങ്ങളിലെ ശൂന്യത. നിങ്ങൾ എപ്പോഴെങ്കിലും കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ടോ കാലിക്കിണ്ണങ്ങളിലെ വസന്താഗമനം? അതുപോലെ ഉയർക്കുന്നു ഈ നഗരം, അതുപോലെ നിറയുന്നു, അതുപോലെ ശൂന്യമാവുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഇങ്ങനെ നാളിൽ നാളിൽ ഒരന്തമില്ലാത്ത ശവം ചുമന്നെത്തുന്നു തൂളുകൾ ഇടുങ്ങിയ തെരുവുകളിൽ നിന്ന് തിളങ്ങുന്ന ഗംഗയിലേക്ക്. ഈ നഗരത്തിൽ പൊടി പതിയെ പതിയെ ഉയരുന്നു. പതിയെ പതിയെ നീങ്ങുന്നു ആളുകൾ. പതിയെ പതിയെ മുഴങ്ങുന്നു മണികൾ. സായാഹ്നമെത്തുന്നു പതിയെ പതിയെ. ഈ പതിയെ പതിയെയാകൽ, പതിയെ പതിയെ ആകുന്നതിൻ്റെ ഒരു മധ്യമലയം വരിഞ്ഞു മുറുക്കി കെട്ടിയിരിക്കുന്നു മുഴുവൻ നഗരത്തെയും. ഇങ്ങനെ ഒന്നും വീഴുന്നതേയില്ല, അനങ്ങുന്നു പോലും ഇല്ല ഒന്നും. അവിടെയുള്ളതെല്ലാം അവിടെ തന്നെ വെച്ചിരിക്കുന്നു. വെള്ളം അവിടെ തന്നെ, കെട്ടിയ തോണി അവിടെ തന്നെ. അവിടെ തന്നെയുണ്ട് തുളസിദാസിൻ്റെ മെതിയടി നൂറ്റാണ്ടുകളായി. നേരോടെ നെറിയോടെ എന്നെങ്കിലും മുന്നൊരുക്കമില്ലാതെ പ്രവേശിച്ചു നോക്കൂ ഈ നഗരത്തിൽ. ആരതി ദർശനത്തിനിടയിൽ അവിചാരിതമൊന്ന് പാളി നോക്കൂ. അത്ഭുതം ഇതിൻ്റെ നിർമ്മിതി. ഇതിൻ്റെ പാതി വെള്ളത്തിൽ, പാതി മന്ത്രത്തിൽ, പാതി പൂവിൽ, പാതി ശവത്തിൽ, പാതി ഉറക്കത്തിൽ, പാതി ശംഖിൽ. ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചു നോക്കിയാൽ ഇത് മറുപാതിയില്ലാത്ത ഒരു പാതി. ഉള്ളതവിടെ തന്നെ, ഒരു തൂണുമില്ലാതെ. ഇല്ലാത്തതിനെ താങ്ങി നിർത്തുന്നു വെണ്ണീരിൻ്റെയും വെളിച്ചത്തിൻ്റെയും നീണ്ട നീണ്ട തൂണുകൾ. തീയുടെ തൂണ്, വെള്ളത്തിൻ്റെ തൂണ്, പുകയുടെ മണത്തിൻ്റെ, ആളുകളെ ഉയർത്തുന്ന കൈകളുടെ തൂണ്. കാണപ്പെടാത്ത ഒരു സൂര്യന് നൽകപ്പെടുന്ന അർഘ്യം. നൂറ്റാണ്ടുകളോളം ഇങ്ങനെ ഗംഗാജലത്തിൽ ഒറ്റക്കാലിൽ നിൽപ്പാണ് ഈ നഗരം. തൻ്റെ മറ്റേ കാലിനെപ്പറ്റി ഒരു പിടിയുമില്ലാതെ. Now let us discuss some probable questions from the lesson. Though no short questions are given in the text, for the proper comprehension, this is required. Question number 1. What is the complex nature of reality that the poem Banaras helps one understand? The poem Banaras by Kedarnath Singh helps one understand the coexistence of multiple cultures in India. Even when Banaras is considered by many as the spiritual capital of the Hindus in India, the reference to Kabir and Lahartara reminds one of the plurality of traditions in India. Question number 2. What is the difference of Banaras from other major cities of India? We always think of cities as moving fast into the future with their technology and industry. But Banaras reveals the other side of India that is lost in its past traditions, rituals, and myths. Question number 3. What picture of India does one get from the poem Banaras? One can see an India which is profoundly human and vibrant despite being poor and backward. Traditional beliefs and customs are still very common in its everyday life despite the scientific temper created by modernity. Question number 4. What essential human quality does one require to see the complex inner world of Banaras? It's through empathy and imagination that we can enter the complex inner world of Banaras. We must demystify the knowledge getting constructed that India has no plurality and diversity in its culture.